there, Trailblazers. It's Alan Flucky, the Trail Explorer, coming at you today from Moab, Utah. Just passing Hole in the Rock, headed down to the Hook and Ladder area. If you haven't explored in the Hook and Ladder area, there's some old wives' tales or old stories about some of the things that used to happen down there, but one of them, if you haven't heard about it, there supposedly was some guy, I don't know if he was a polygamist or what, but up on top of some of these slick rocks, they have there's a big hole down in there, and we stumbled upon it a few years ago. It's pretty hard to find if you don't know where it's at. I've got a previous short video I'll link in the description that you can take a look at this hole, but it's just a big slick rock hole. And there's a ladder in there, and supposedly this guy kept a bunch of women trapped down in there, and they couldn't get out. You know, there's just no way to climb up out of there, and he held them hostage and had them trapped there. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the wives' tale or the story. You can maybe Google it and look up Hook and Ladder Trail and see what you see. There's another spot that we'll probably see today that's kind of similar, but it's up in the cliff. You got to climb up to get into it, where the other one you drop down into it. So you'll probably see that a little bit shortly coming up. But today we're going to go down and start on the Trax. Not Max Trax. Why do I always say Max Trax? It's Jack's Trax Trail. And it's going to take us along, and then we're going to get on Cameo Cliffs, and it'll take us over by Wilson Arch. We're just about to Wilson Arch right now, just about getting ready to go by it, but it's kind of a popular place just along the road here on Highway 191 that a lot of people stop at and check out. So I'll show you a picture of that here in just a second. But it's a beautiful March day here in Moab. Perfect temperatures. Nice and sunny. Great day to get out on the trail, do a little exploring. We're just on the highway here, just about to where we're going to turn off the road, but this is Wilson Arch. It's a big arch right here on 191, right before you get down to the bottom of the canyon here. But yeah, it's a pretty cool little spot, just right off the road. You can hike up too close. We're going to be coming in a little bit on the back side of that. There's the front side from the road. There's a sign, Hook and Ladder Trailhead Access. There's a pullover spot here. Bathrooms. And another Jeep's here. Surprising. Hook and Ladder Cameo Cliffs, it says. We're going to start on Cameo Cliffs and then work our way to Jack's Trax. Alright, so this is just the start of the trail as we leave the trailhead starting point. And a lot of the trails just kind of like this, just soft, sandy, 2-track, but nothing really aggressive, but quite a bit of fun. The gentleman back there said he lost one of his gas cans. Keep an eye out for it. I said, well, I'll do so. He was going to Tommy Knocker. I'm not sure what that is. blitzing will go either way. I'm gonna go this way and do the loop around. Another trail marker says that's trail 4 straight ahead and trail 2 stays to the left, which is Jack's tracks. So we're going this way. It'd be cool if we saw some neat arches today that were hidden out on here other than Wilson. If you like an easier trail, this is probably one of them. I don't think there's much aggressive on here. It did say more difficult. The other way said easy, this way said more difficult, but I don't think there's anything too out of hand. I'm still in 2-wheel drive, so if I get to a point where I got to put it in 4-wheel, I'll let you know, but so far 2-wheel drive. This really is about the perfect time to be in Moab. Not too hot, not too cold. Beautiful. So I don't know if I talked to you about my Jeep at all in a previous video, but I'll tell you a little bit about it now. It's a 2023 Gladiator Rubicon. Haven't done a whole lot to it. I put a new bumper on it so I could pull it behind the motorhome easy without having to have that plate that you mount up underneath that costs you ground clearance. I went with a 3.5-inch Clayton Overland Plus lift that got it up off the ground a little bit, and got some 37-inch Falcon Wild Peak AT4Ws on here. I'm currently aired down to about 17 pounds. Not too low, but not too high either. Good range. And we're just cruising down the road. I do have a Warren winch on the front. Did the 12,000 pound. So that's up there. And I haven't really done a lot else. Pretty much stock rear bumper, stock rock slider. I did put one of those chips in it that stops the stop-start from having to be turned on and off all the time, and it also has some other things in it, like this one, for instance, right now, that lets you unhook your sway bar with in two-wheel drive, which is kind of a nice feature. So we're just running along, no sway bar, two-wheel drive, about perfect for this road. That's really about all I've done to it. I've got a rack on the back, heavy metal off-road. Normally I have a rooftop tent on top, but didn't know if I was going to get into some heavier four-wheeling this trip, and I didn't really want to be worrying about that tent falling off or sliding off or bending. It's been on there for the last year and I haven't had any issues with it, but it just makes me nervous when I'm off-road and don't want it falling off in the middle of nowhere. I'd never get it back up there. All right, first little spot that looks like it's anything. I don't think it's too much. I wonder what made Jax turn up this way. Cannot see so good. Let's see. I did put in a front camera because it didn't come with the front camera. It lets you see off a little bit, but I can't see over the hood enough to tell what I got going on here. Looks like it drops straight off. I guess you could have went either way. Nothing major, still in two-wheel drive. Well, it's a little more than I thought was going to be on this trail. I figured it was just a simple. Like somebody's done a little dragging here. That's one negative with the Gladiators, is their breakover angle is not the greatest. You almost have to put it in four-wheel. Kind of a fun spot. Only got about 9,600 miles on her, so Not a ton of miles, but this is exactly what I bought it for, is just getting out and doing some exploring. So this is another angle of that spot I was telling you, if you can see it better. That tree's not in the way. But there's the two peaks over there, and then the sandstone right in the middle. That's where that hole's at. Yeah, this trail's kind of a pleasant surprise for what I'm seeing so far. Don't know if I've been on it before. It's 4 or 5 years ago that I came here, maybe longer even, and we rode quite a bit of stuff, but I'm not really remembering this one. Jeep safari coming up. That's going to get some people down here, and I noticed this was one of their trails that they're doing. It looks like they need to come on it because it doesn't look like it's had much traffic. Hardly any traffic at all, it's looking like. Which again, that's one of the big positives for coming riding in this area. You just don't see people. Part of it's probably because there's just nothing super aggressive on it, but a lot of people like the different challenges of that. But sometimes it's nice just to have an easy day and just a nice scenic, easy ride. Did just decide to put it in 4-wheel drive just for the slick rock ledges here. Just to make it a little easier. I might have made it in 2-wheel, but this will be better. of the things when you come down here, if you haven't off-roaded a lot or haven't done much driving and stuff like this, the line is the most important thing in the world. There's just nothing more important than picking the perfect line. And you can stand at a spot and watch 20 machines or vehicles come through, and everybody might go a different one. They might all just not be quite exact. What you've got to teach your brain to do is think about everything that's going on with your vehicle. So this vehicle, for instance, long wheelbase Gladiator, I've got a big 37-inch spare tucked up underneath there. The 3.5-inch lift definitely helps, and I don't drag a ton, but you got to be thinking about what's going to be going on under your rig, depending on what you drive over. And sometimes if there's a great big rock in the middle of the road, you can't just drive over it. You've got to decide, sometimes it might be better to have the tires go over that rock, even though most people would think, why are you going to do that? But what it does is it helps hold you up higher, so you're not going to drag anything. So sometimes you just got to pick that line and figure out what's the best way to go. And sometimes you pick a wrong one. Sometimes you look at it and think that's going to be not too bad, but it ends up being bad. So, but the more you run, the more you drive, the more you practice, it just kind of gets to be second nature, and you just start doing it kind of without thinking. Trail turns back to the left, so I can't really see those old numbers. It's almost, this one's actually saying 2 goes straight ahead, which we've been on 2 since we stopped. This is saying 6 is this way, but that's the way, so we're gonna hang left here at the 6. I do remember this spot too. I think there is a cabin. Don't want sagebrush stripes. I'm getting them. It's saying 6. It's saying 6 both ways, but the trail's showing it goes this way. If I'm remembering right, there's a cabin down in here. I might get out and run over and see if I can see that. Draining a little water out of my cooler. It's got too much water. Anyway, I'll give you a quick outside of the Jeep. I do have these Bunker Industries traction boards that I've bought and had on there for years, so never had the need to use them so far yet. Haven't been stuck. Got the Black Rhino wheels, and then the all-terrain Falcon Wild Peak AT4Ws. I did do the Falcon single stage shock as well. This bumper is from Rock Hard. It's who manufactures that. It's an aluminum full width. A lot of people love the stubbies. I kind of, you know, I see the purpose of the stubbies so your tire's not hitting the bumper, but I don't think I could hit the bumper with that, even with full length. And I just like a little protection there just in case you run into something. But I got that 12,000 pound winch on there and a couple shackles. I do like the steel rope. I know people are onto the braided, but I've winched over so much stuff that I just like having that steel on there. The factory fog lights fit right in there as well, which is nice. This one does have the LEDs all the way around too, which is good and bad, I guess. Good so you can see at night, but man, they blind people even when they're on lows. And then this rack is heavy metal off-road. One of the biggest things when I got it was they had a video showing how you could install it with the hard tonneau cover on there. So I definitely wanted to keep the hard tonneau, but I also wanted the rack. So theirs works fine with that, and they have a video showing you how to do it. A couple of Rotopax cans of gas, and that's about it. By the way, I never gave you the Jeep's name. Thought about it long and hard before I named it. Ended up coming up with Scout. So I know that it's not an international Scout, but I felt that it basically was the purpose of this vehicle. Just like we're doing right now, to go out and scout. So this is Scout. Now see, this is a spot where you could drag, so it's about figuring out the right line to go through here to have the best chance of not dragging. that front camera, it almost doesn't do anything. I have a hard time telling what it looks like even out of that. But I did want to show you something. This Onyx off-road, see that? Got where you're at in the blue line. By far the best. And I'm not sponsored by them, but I tell you, if you're looking for software for trails, that's it. Let me show you what Polaris looks like, just for... where's Polaris? Look at that crap. Can you see that? All these trails out here. Can't tell the name of any of them. No matter what you do, squeeze in, squeeze out, it's a mess. So Onyx is so much better than the Polaris Ride Command. These are the 10-ply tires too. I sure like the 10-ply when you're running them low. Just a lot better. Don't worry about pinch flats, taking out the sidewalls. Alright, we just got to this sign. It still says 6 to the right, but I got it closed right there. Look at that, most difficult. Most difficult. I can't think anything on here that's most difficult, but I guess we're gonna find out. Usually in Utah, you have 3 different ratings. You have easy, which is green, and then you got more difficult, which is blue, and then you got most difficult, which is black. But I was down at Canab the other day out on the Hog Canyon Trail, and we got to a spot and they had one I'd never seen before. It was called extremely difficult, and it was red. However, I can tell you from going around it a couple of times that it really wasn't that hard. There's lots of more hard spots in Moab for sure. But that's what they had. They had the red extremely. I'll see if I can find a picture of that and post it up on the screen with this. Well, there we are with another spot where the map's telling us to turn left here. That road now says more difficult, and it says more difficult this way. So why they needed to say most difficult, I have no idea, but it seems a little wrong to me. And that one says more difficult. Old Jax, he got up here and decided it was time to go left. Looks to me like it's got us heading down to a canyon, but maybe it'll drop us in the bottom. this looks like it's going to drop us out in the bottom right here. And wants us to cut back to the right. I don't understand their signs. So 6 more difficult. Now it's got us going back to 2 and easy, and 2 going this way again for more difficult. It's like a 4-lane highway here. Wow, my phone just told me it's only 2 hours and 30 minutes to home, and traffic is light. Looks like we're about halfway around Jack's Trax. So I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Brigham Tea, but that's what that is. It's called Brigham Tea. It's Supposedly the Mormon pioneers coming across the country made tea out of that somehow. I don't know. That's the rumor anyway. Well, these markings, the map's showing I go left here. Down the most difficult. Looks like we're on the back side of those cells now. Jack's got himself up on a ledge here and had to ride down the ridge. bump there. First bump all day. Top pinstripes. Sometimes when you've been out in the rocks all day, these little sandy spots are kind of fun. It's a little smoother, you can just cruise a little quicker. Alright, so let's stop here for a second and take a look. So I think That is the way out of Jack's Trax, but it just works its way back up and then cuts over and then turns onto Cameo cliffs. So here's one thing about the old Onyx. You can see there's a cut across road that's going to run right into our trail over there. So I think we're going to take the shortcut and sneak over to there. So this is the end of Jack's Trax for now, and we're headed to Cameo cliffs. Okay, I just hit the road that goes to Cameo cliffs. This is cutting off just a little section from the Jack's Trax trail. By the way, if anybody gets to that spot, I would just recommend going the rest of the way out on the main trail, because I just spent 30 minutes coming through this section with this tall brush, and the road was super narrow and it's trying to scratch me down both sides. So go the regular trail, don't try that shortcut. So Cameo cliffs. bad as a dragger. Alright, I know what I need to do. Look at these pinstripes. Sons of bitches. Ah. What is that? See if we don't grab that rear diff here. Not too bad. These must be the Cameo cliffs here. Pretty cool looking rock. Piece of rock, red rock. Cameo Cliffs, that's the cliff. danger, poison gas, keep out. Pipeline, it must be natural gas, I don't know. What kind of gas would they be pumping out here? All right, trailblazers, I promised you I was going to show you the next spot where there could have been some people kept. A little bit of a hike, but we'll see if we can make it. Several years since I've been here. This is the ladder. I guess with this one, they couldn't get out without the ladder. But, I mean, maybe you could slide off there. You might not stop till you get clear to the bottom, though. All right. All right. Oh, it feels nice and cool in here. Could probably have a good nap. About right there. Forgot there was a table down here to have lunch. Picnic a table. If I don't fall and break my butt here. All this stuff says spear on it. That's what the ladder said too, spear. Kind of weird. Ah, it feels nice in the shade. So you remember this morning when we were talking about not seeing many people out on the trail, we saw the one Jeep right at the beginning. And nobody since. This is kind of getting into prime bumming around season too, so just shows you how quiet it is out here. without a lot of people, if that's what you like, which I do. This pipeline must be natural gas. Green natural gas. If you ever wondered where it came from out here. Woo! So there was another road back there that looked like it was much better than this, but this was the way the trail said to go. So, thinking that other way might have been a little less brushy. This is just winding along this ridge here. Look at it. It's going to come out right here on this other road. Alright, we're up on top of a ridge now and working our way up to the turnoff to Wilson Arch from the backside. It was a Monday, a day like any other day. I left a small town for the apple in decay. It was my destiny, it's what we needed to do. They were telling me, I'm telling you. I was inside, looking outside, millions of faces, but still I'm alone. Waiting, I was overwaiting. I could feel the penance, I was longing for home. I'm looking out for the two of us. How was that, folks? Just a little something to keep me awake on this last little stretch of trail. Little foreigner for you. Wild looking at that camera for a second, eh? Actually starting to get down on the other side here to the valley. This is LaSalle town. You can see out there in the distance. If you can see it. Town of LaSalle. Don't remember this being as tight and narrow as it seems to have been today, but I guess I was on a side-by-side last time I came through here. Alright folks, well this is the turn. Not marked at all, but this is where it goes left to the backside of Wilson Arch. Normally I would go, but I'm running a little short on time today. I'm supposed to meet somebody, so I'm just going to keep on cruising. Down in the flat now. That's LaSalle, maybe a little better view. This road actually is going to come in. It's going to come in on the highway that goes to LaSalle, and I think you can keep going straight across if I recall. And I think it takes you over to Strike Ravine, and you got area BFE over there, and I think the LaSalle, there's a road that goes up on top of the LaSalle's. I think it's the LaSalle Loop Road. So you can pretty much keep going for miles. This is pretty much the end for me today though, so I think we're going to get up here. I'm going to turn the camera off and just about back to the pavement. And so until next time, Trailblazers, keep the shiny side up.